Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another YouTube video. In this one, this is actually a pretty special interview. This is with one of my original clients that got our help in growing his business. His name is Keaton Walker, and you can actually scroll down on our YouTube channel and see like almost a year and a half ago where he came actually out to my apartment and we did an interview in person where he hit his first $10,000 a month with his business. And now today he's doing over $50,000 a month in his business, where he's got a consulting offer for, businesses that are in the orthodontist niche. So these companies that, help with like your teeth cleaning or straightening or whatever, he does marketing for them. So he runs their ads and such. And we helped him pick his niche, build an offer that makes sense, get his team on board, everything like that back when we were first starting. And now today he's scaled it way up. So it's really cool to see this long, drawn-out journey that he's had and just how successful he's been by staying extremely consistent. And I let him just talk and share his journey, just be open about it, and how the other people he's gotten help from and the books he's read and all these things. And I just want you to understand, really, from this interview, the importance of picking one niche and just going all in and just keeping it extremely simple. Because what a lot of people will do is, this is just kind of the cycle most people live on. They're like, they are not where they want to be, and they're frustrated they're not where they want to be, so they make a desperate action to solve it, which isn't actually the right action, and then they stay where they don't want to be. So really, you just have to let go and just do small things every single day and let that stack over 2 to 4 years. And for most people, that will get them where they want to be. And Keaton is a good example of that. So I want to welcome to the channel Keaton Walker. You're welcome to scroll down and see our other interview as well, almost 2 years ago, where he reached $10,000 a month, and he's 5x that now to $50,000 a month, just by staying simple, getting more calls, making more sales, continuing to invest in getting more help, building relationships. It's a really interesting interview, and I hope you get a lot from it today. Once again, if you're ready to scale your business, you can schedule a one-to-one consult with myself or my team, and we'll just talk about where you're at, what you need help with, and we'll see if you're a good fit and if you're qualified and it makes sense for you to doing high-level systems. And even if you're not really ready right now, or you're not sure that you want to make a decision right now, or you don't really want to be sold, that's fine. These are just conversations about where you're at, and we pretty much only make offers to people that we know we can help based on their experience or the mentality they're bringing to the table. And at this point, I don't think anybody isn't good to go, isn't able to get our help, as long as they're willing to follow what we say. So if that sounds like you, if you're ready to just get the right help and cut straight to the meat, schedule your call down below and we'll help you have similar success to what Keaton has had if you're willing to put in the sacrifice, put in the work, and follow our system and do what we tell you to do. So with that being said, without further ado, welcome to the channel, Keaton Walker. All right, Mr. Keaton, welcome to the channel, dude.
Hey, man. It's good to be back.
Yeah, good to have you back.
Over Zoom this time, but it's all right. I'll have to do another in person someday.
Yeah, people can scroll back on the channel and see when Keaton was the first. Honestly, it was a moment of validation, if I'm being completely honest. Because I was like, this is working so well for me. I want somebody else to be succeeding with this. And you had your first 5-figure month. And I was like, hey, fly out, let's have steak and all this stuff. And it's been some crazy growth since then. The results that clients get nowadays is just it's crazy, the growth. But to see that it was 2 years ago and how far you've come, it's just so cool to me. I mean, bringing in multiple you said 50,000 in revenue through ortho patients, which was the original niche that we kind of stumbled into. Yep. I remember literally it was kind of like a roll the dice moment and pick one, if I remember correctly. But
yeah, it was literally my best friend from high school, whose dad is a dentist, was like, you should do orthodontist. And he explained 3 or 4 things. I was like, all right, good enough for me.
Yeah, cool.
And here we are 2 years later.
Yeah, it's so funny. I've referenced you so much on high-level systems calls and stuff, because I'm like people that are stuck on the niche thing. I'm just dude, yeah, you just gotta pick one. And it's I promise the point of diminishing return on thinking about your niche happens 20 minutes. It's
yep.
It's just pick one and then do market research and then figure it out. But yeah, anyway, it is really good. I mean, I consider Keaton a client and a friend and a brother, and we've had some real conversations just about life, and it's just cool. It's cool, and this is just from a selfish perspective before we really get into the interview, that this business permits me the ability to develop relationships with people like you, Keaton, that I can really track the progress of and the growth of, and kind of point it all back to a few moments we had on a couple of Zoom calls, 2 years coaching and one-to-one. And couldn't say how proud of you I am and just the growth you've experienced. So just walk people through, what it's been like this past 2 years, And obviously this isn't even really like technically a high level system client interview, because he's not really in high level. He just worked with me directly forever ago, and he's just gone all the way with it. So walk me through the journey, man. What have you learned? How's it been? Like, what's it like? And just kind of share for the people that are watching your story and everything like that.
Yeah. So I first got into digital marketing through my family business, actually, which is a swim school out here in Utah. And my brother, who was the CEO at the time, was like, hey, we need someone to figure out like how to market the business for this new location we're opening. And I was like, all right, sounds good. Like, I'll figure it out. And he had like three things. He was like, it's like relationships in the community. I forget what the second one was. And then the third one was online ads. And so I was doing like literally everything under the sun, man. I was like, I knocked doors to sell swimming lessons. Like I was running billboards. I was like going to elementary schools and like elementary school fairs. And we had like this tent there. I remember we were like playing these games and like just trying to market this business. And the one thing that I really noticed, like actually had a tangible return on investment and didn't take all the time in the world, was digital marketing, like the Facebook ads we were running. And so I doubled down on that, and I eventually ended up spending most of my time doing that. But I wasn't very good. It's like those first few Facebook ads you run are just crap. So I was doing all right. And I remember like the first time I got my first lead through a Facebook ad, and I was like, oh, it worked. Like it worked. And then there were like, I think I spent a lot of money on it in the first day. So there was like 15 leads that came in the first day, and then it just like completely tanked and it stopped working. I was like, oh no, what happened? Like I messed it up. I'm actually not good at marketing, all this. And we ended up hiring somebody, Justin Lamb, you know him.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a friend of a friend, and it was the 17-year-old. He lives in California. We ended up hiring him for like a month just to kind of set up like a ClickFunnels page and like run some traffic to it and actually help market the business. And I was blown away at what he was able to do. Within 3 weeks, we were just overwhelmed. Like the office staff was completely overwhelmed with all the leads that were coming in and like all this stuff. And that was the first time I was like, okay, I think marketing is like a real thing. Like this could actually work. And the 17-year-old, like there's no reason, if he can do it, there's no reason I can't do something like that. And so I just kept thinking about it. And eventually, so that was like, I started in like September. And then in January, I was like, all right, I'm ready to start. I'm going to start a marketing agency. So I posted on Facebook about it and had a couple people reach out, and I was just doing like all sorts of random stuff. Like you probably relate in those first clients you bring on, you're like, there's no contract. There's no like real offer. There's just like, hey, I'm going to help you with your stuff, your marketing stuff.
Yeah, right.
And so I worked for free for like 2 months and just I was helping them set up their Shopify stores. And like, we didn't actually end up running any ads. When it came to run ads, I was just like, I'm nervous. Like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can actually spend other people's money. And it was at that point when I like fired those 2 clients. I fired myself from those 2 clients because I didn't know what to do. When I was like, I need a mentor. Like I need someone where I'm in that situation. I can ask them a question and they can answer me. And so I was looking around and I found you through Justin, actually reached out. We scheduled a call. Trey almost didn't let me in the program, which is hilarious. He was like, I don't know. This guy seems really depressed. I think I had like broken up with my girlfriend the same day on the call.
Yeah. Like I know. And I even at that time, I was like, I don't like the whole, like I'm in emotional despair and I need to make money now. I'm like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah. But you're like, what the heck? We'll let him in. And then, we just met, at that time we were doing like 3 calls a month and 1 emergency call if you need it. And that ended up being like the perfect amount of time. And I remember you coming home from like your grandpa's. You were like, yeah, I'm helping my grandpa with his like garden. And he's like, I'm going to be like, you were like, I'm going to be 30 minutes late to our call. Sorry. I'm like helping out with the garden. And I was like,
yeah,
who is this kid? Like, am I really paying him to help me? But we got on the call and every time I just felt like completely like, wow, blown away at the mindset help that you had given me,
Yeah.
So eventually ended up like choosing orthodontist. I was able to close an orthodontist within like a week. And the way I did that was just messaging them through Facebook and like getting on a value add call where I just gave a bunch of advice and then they asked me for the sale. And then I made this, ended up posting this like PDF thing in a Facebook group full of orthodontists a couple weeks later, or a couple months later actually, and then that just blew up, and I closed like 2 or 3 more clients off of that. If the PDF was worth anything, I probably could have closed like 10, but it was just complete crap. It was so bad. It's
Yep.
funny to look back at that.
Yeah.
But anyways, I kind of broke into the market that way, because there's, I don't know, like the big players were all in that group, right? And then I just showed up every day for like 4 or 5 months. And then I remember looking back, like waking up one day and be like, okay, I have a contractor managing the ads. I have like 5 clients. I'm bringing in like 10 grand a month. It's not all profit, because I'm putting a lot of it back into, more coaching or courses, or like paying my contractor, which wasn't that much at the time. But like I have something, which is really, really cool. And then this is about the time that our last interview stuff. So um, I was sitting at like 10, 12 grand, like really starting to work on like scaling up the business. And I remember reading Russell Brunson stuff at the time about uh, like the Dream 100, and how you're supposed to tap into these different like consultants or other people in your industry that service a similar market, that you might be able to like break into their audience. And so I reached out to the first 2 people I reached out to, and I just said, hey, how much for an hour of your time? Because I wanted to like chat with them and see, if there was any synergies that could happen. And the first one ended up being like, we ended up doing a webinar like 9 months later that made me like 20 grand. And then the second one, and they both met with me for free. And then the second one became my business partner. And I was pretty skeptical about the business partner thing. So he was running, basically we had learned from the same person that had previously run an agency for orthodontists. And he's like, yeah, I've been looking for a business partner. Like, I'm just sort of bored, to be honest. Like, I want to grow, like I'm doing pretty well, but I want to grow the business. And like, but I don't want to do it alone. And like, you can't hire for somebody like you. Like all the people I've hired quit after 2 months because, they're just not that into it, whatever. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think this is the right fit. I value being my own boss, all of this stuff. And then honestly, it was just like a gut feeling one day that I felt like this is the right thing. Like, you have to do this. So I just like woke up and I was like, hey man, let's be business partners. And and then he ended up flying up to Utah with his wife, and we like met in person for the first time and like talked. And it's kind of like getting married after one date. Like, it wasn't like, obviously there's been like some rough parts, but for the most part it's been incredible. And like I knew I could trust him. Like, we talked and it just for some reason felt right. But one of the biggest things that he was bringing to the table, besides like 4 years of marketing experience, which I didn't have, was like an email list of 9,000 orthodontists. And so we've just milked that list for all it's worth. And that's been like a huge, it's cool because all the people I was already running ads to, I was running paid ads. All those people were on the email list as well, right? And so the email list, the paid ads, the organic posting, just kind of like building a brand. And now we're like even breaking into the SEO realm where we're ranking on Google for certain search terms related to orthodontic marketing. They like all of those things together. So I remember we did a webinar like the week after we became partners or something, the month after, and closed like I was doing like 10 grand a month. I was like stalled at 10 grand a month in my own agency. And the way we did it is like, he kept his clients, I kept my clients, and then we started something together. So he doesn't get any of this revenue, I don't get any of this revenue. We just started something together, and we did 13 grand our first month together as a partnership. And obviously that was split, but it was just like, I saw the power of like 1 + 1 = 3. There's just a lot of stuff going on there, and then the leverage with the email list and everything. So that webinar just knocked it out of the park. We did really well. And then COVID hit the next month, and I remember it was like everybody had been on for about a month, and we bill on the 15th. And so we billed on the 15th, and it was like the 16th or the 17th that the world shut down of March. And I was just like, oh no, like this is it, the world's ending. And And so we had all this revenue, but we hadn't fulfilled on any of it. Everybody was shut down. We like didn't really know what to do. So we shut everybody's ads off. And I think everybody, we talked about this in the interview we just did for Course Ranks, but it's like everyone was freaking out, like looking around, like what's going to happen. And then I think like a week or two later, it was like, oh, we're completely fine. Like everything's fine.
Yep.
And in fact, it was better because all the orthodontists were looking for digital solutions to marketing, to, you know, consultations, all of those things. And it was that time that we did that interview with the other Dream 100 consultant I had mentioned. And we got like, I remember we had like 15 sales calls after that, and I was just like blown away.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. So we just like, that really launched us into like the 20 to 30 grand a month range. And then all during the summer. So it was during that time, I was kind of having an existential crisis, like didn't know what to do next. Like I was enjoying the agency, but I was like, oh, it's not like, I like orthodontists, but I'm not like, this doesn't get me out of bed in the morning when I'm like, oh, I love helping people straighten their teeth. Like I wanted a deeper purpose in what I was doing. Right. And so I actually like took an entire month off of the agency and was like, I think I'm going to leave and just try to figure it out, but really felt guided back. Like, no, this is where you need to be. And then things just exploded. Over the summer, we were growing. Like we had, in April, we were down in April in revenue, but every single month in 2020, we grew in revenue. So it was just like every month was bigger than the last month, all of these things. But the thing we kept cluing into over the summer, this is while I was in London, ended up moving to London during this time, like as part of this existential crisis, which was incredible and amazing experience that like, dude, a year before, like that was literally a year after I started. I couldn't have dreamed that that's what my life would have looked like. And it was insane to me that actually happened. So fun being in London, like so many lifelong friends I made there, like exactly where I was supposed to be. But we had like a really big attrition rate. So we'd bring on, 6 clients a month, but we were losing 2 or 4 every single month. And it was mainly due to 2 things. One is like lack of proper expectation setting on the sales call and like during the onboarding process. And then 2 was like the offices just aren't trained to handle online leads. Like they just don't understand it.
Making sure they actually know how to follow up and sell and whatnot.
Yeah. So there was 2 at the time. I didn't realize that there was really 2 ways we could have gone about it. One is just like implementing a coaching element and like coaching their front office on how to follow up, or we could just take that in-house and actually do the follow-up ourselves. And I was more inclined to go the second route because it just seems, I don't know, it's like we just control more of it. We can offer guarantee this way because we're handling like literally every part of the process except the consultation. And so we ended up like putting out a job post. Well, it's funny. We ended up, we're like, okay, we could go the cheap route on this. And so we ended up hiring like a Filipino VA for like $3 an hour to start doing some text follow-up for our clients. And I remember I went on vacation and I came back. I was gone. I was completely shut off all week on this vacation. And I came back and my team was like so mad at me because I had like set this VA up and then like all during that week they had to deal with her and like try to teach her how to do follow-up. And we only had 1 client that was doing follow-up, 1 or 2. And then I came back there just like, yeah, this is not going to work. And I just kind of like left them high and dry. But we ended up putting out a job post and like pulling somebody that had 20 years of experience from the industry, which has like not only helped our clients get amazing results, but it's just helped our street cred. We're like, our team has 30 years of combined orthodontic experience, and people are like, oh, that's amazing. Like, so that's super cool. But we ended up hiring our incredible follow-up manager who now does follow. Cool. Now we have 2.
And I remember it's so funny you're saying all these things, and it's like in my head, I'm like seeing like timestamps of texts that I remember getting from you about like, hey, what do you think about this or this? And I'm like, oh yeah, try this. And it's just like, it's cool to hear. I don't think I've ever heard you just kind of summarize all of it.
Yeah. So, we ended up bringing 2, and then at that point we had like lost our contracted account manager. Like she wanted to go do her own thing. And so we had to hire, like I was in London, the time difference is like 7 hours. And I was like we were hiring an account manager and a follow-up manager, like full-time employees from different states, online over Zoom, and like, but it just, I don't know, like I wasn't ready. I wouldn't have been ready to do that 6 months earlier, but my entrepreneurial mind had just been like strengthened to the point where I was like, yeah, we can do this. And so we brought on 2 full-time employees at that point. Like, they're employees, not contractors. They're like, on payroll. So like we pay payroll tax, like they're amazing. Like, they're like, we couldn't have hired better people. And I think we did a really good job of just being picky and like going with our gut and going with vibe and like who fits with the culture. And so we ended up finishing December at like 35,000, I think. And then January was 40. February was around 40 again. March was 45, and April will finish a little above 50. So it's just been, and the really good news is that our client attrition rate is just way down. Like, most people are staying on, like, with no thoughts of coming off board, because we're actually like providing a genuinely valuable service with like a really good result. And even if the thing that's been cool for me is, like, I did an interview with a client a few weeks ago, and he's like, yeah, we get like an extra 2-3 patients a month, which is like 15 grand for an orthodontist in revenue and probably 7-8 in profit. So that's cool. Not like, yeah, it's sweet. Like, it's a good amount of money, but it's not like, flashy internet marketing money. It's not like, oh, I'm getting my client, like, I'm going to bring you 100x ROI, all this stuff. But like, the client's super happy. He's super happy.
Yeah, people always compare to these huge results, and it's like, you really don't. You just have to be like ROI positive at the end of the day.
Yep. And the thing is, he's like, yeah, my neighbors telling me, like, they see me everywhere on social media. Like, he tells all these cool stories about just like the awareness that they're receiving. It's not really like, that's not what I sell my product. That's not how I sell my product, but everybody brings it up. And it's just like this, it's kind of like this over delivered type thing where they're like, oh, I didn't even expect this, but it's so cool.
They're really just trying to turn a buck into 3 with ads. And then all of a sudden their whole local area like knows about them. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So cool. Now we have, a couple months ago, we hired another follow-up manager and another account manager. And like, yeah, man, it's wild to me. I'm bringing in like more money than I ever thought I would ever in my whole life. And I'm 20.
I love it. And it's made by means of just finding it, again, just picking an industry, picking an offer, and then just the most important element of your story that I heard, it was 2 things. It was like very relationally driven. Like, you built relationships with people that knew what they were talking, like us, your business partner, finding people in the industry that have experience. Like, you're very relationally, and that's something that is understated in our industry for sure. We're very systems oriented. It's like, relationships are so important, and we just forget that because we're behind computer screens all day, And the other thing is, you took a month off and you were like soul searching. You're like, oh, it's not orthodontist. But I think at some point, and this is probably, I could probably put words in your mouth and maybe you'll agree with me on what you heard in that month off. But what I've heard when I take these breaks and I'm like, I'm looking for more meat, it's like you're missing the entire point. It's like you are missing the entire point of what you're doing. It is not about whether you are or are not passionate about. It is growing something that serves other people at a level that whether you could or couldn't care about it, it's serving them. And because there are times, don't get it twisted, like even in my business where I'll feel that way, everybody feels that way. And even with course ranks, you're going to feel that way with course. I guarantee it. You're going to be like, you're going to be like, oh man, this is kind of, but like, it happens. But it's because for a moment, our business becomes about us. And then and then we've missed the focus. Like, if your business didn't exist, there would be like, who knows how much revenue left on the table for these orthodontists that they otherwise wouldn't be able to put into their, families or their future investments or pay off their mortgages or what. And that's like meaningful work, and our generation is so high-sided. It's like, I want to change the world. And it's just like, dude, like, we're missing the extreme value in like, if I can get an entrepreneur to double their prices and continue selling at the same rate they were before, I'm like, I've changed their life. Like, really, I have. And it's like, but that's, people don't think about that, like for you, like these guys, like they now realize, even if they stop working with you 6 months later, they now realize that if they just click the right buttons and they set up the right systems, they can grow their business however high they want to, as long as there's
Mhm.
not bottlenecks in that process of any kind. And that's a new
Yeah.
concept to most of the people you're working with. So it's like, there's real meaning there. And I think on that 30 days off, maybe you felt something like that. Cause I know that when I take a break, that's what I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, it was just like, I don't think I knew when I went back why I was going back,
Mm-hmm.
but, and I, there's still times where I'm just like, I don't, like there is, I think there's a quote by C.S. Lewis that's like when you feel a hunger for something bigger, like maybe it's just because this life can't afford that to you.
Mm.
Like there are things that can, but like it's coming later and it's coming, in eternity. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I still don't know if I'm totally sure on it, but I'm happy. And I think it's one of the lessons I needed to learn was to enjoy my life outside of work,
Yeah. Sure.
because I was very one dimensional around this time last year. It was just like work. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And so
Mm.
I learned, now I learned like there's hobbies that I enjoy. Like I've learned how to take my life and like I don't really take breaks from like, I'm not like binge watching TV shows all the time, but I'm taking breaks and like engaging in high quality leisure that makes
Mm.
my work time more effective, more
Mm.
exciting. Another big thing has been my team. Like
Yeah.
there's just people I love working with every day, and I'm giving a meaningful work experience too. So that's been big for me as well.
Well, it's just cool to see the journey, man. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time left, but I can say
No, no
that
worries.
I just want people to see Keaton's story as like an understanding of like how important it is to get the right help at the right time, and whether it's us or somebody else. Even it's like he saw that there were problems he couldn't solve with the understanding that he had at the time, and like
Mm-hmm.
one of my messages, and I was listening to like, this is gonna be very cheesy of me, but I was listening to like Steve Jobs interviews, because like now he's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
made fun of as like, oh, all young guys want to just be Steve Jobs, but he's actually got some real freaking wisdom. He said like a business, their marketing isn't like their ads. It's the principles that are being said subconsciously in their ads. Like what's the principle? And like one of the principles I want my company to represent is that you don't know what you don't know. And we embody that too, because of our personal
Mm-hmm.
ad spend, or not ad spend, like spend on people coming in and helping. And like, I want people to see how valuable it is to get that help. And I think at every stage, you didn't even just reference me, you reference other people too. Like I hopped into other programs and other courses and Russell Brunson and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, like I'm an
Yeah.
advocate of that. I'm not even going to pretend we're the only ones on our market that do what we do, but
Yeah.
we helped you get started, and I'm super proud of that. So yeah, dude, like and I've only got like 2 or 3 minutes, unfortunately, but like what's the key
It's all
thing
good.
that you want to say to somebody just getting started, or somebody that, has some momentum and wants to scale up to the level that you guys are at? Like, what are some ideas that you've embodied that have helped you get here?
Yeah. I think there came a point like you can always read more, you can always take more courses, you can always, get more help. But there comes a point where you have to just stand on your own 2 feet and be like, I know I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the point where the rubber really hits the road and you start to make progress, because you stop looking for external sources for validation of like the fact that your ideas might be good or whatever it is. Like every time I've succeeded, it's because I intuitively made the right decision based on my circumstances. And maybe I bounced that off of you or someone else, but it's every time that it's worked, it's because I've known that I've made the decision, not because somebody else has told me to do it.
Mm.
So I would just say, like, listen to your heart, like follow your intuition, like get help from the right sources, but like you've got everything it takes. You just have to believe that in order to succeed.
Solid, dude. It's a great message. It's a mix, understanding that you can
Yeah.
figure it out and you've got just as much intuition as anybody else, and also getting the right information in and getting the right help mixed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's good stuff, dude.
Yep.
Well, welcome back to the channel. Maybe we'll do a third one when you're at 1 million a year.
Sounds good. See you in a couple months.
I see you.